this episode of Family Office Real Estate Insights, we're at the Jaboy Conference speaking with Garry Gilliam, former NFL star and CEO of The Bridge, about making a difference through real estate. For the last 25 years, I've been in real estate, which is my passion. Back in 2015, I started working in the family office space directly for several prominent families on their real estate portfolios. With 70% of families losing their wealth by the second generation and 90% by the third generation, I then realized that real estate would be the missing component for families, allowing them to maintain their legacy and mitigate how much wealth is lost for future generations. It was shortly after working for my first single-family office that I started interviewing successful real estate families and industry experts. These conversations, combined with my first-hand experience of working for families on their real estate investments and currently investing on behalf of families, that has allowed me to share this knowledge with other family offices, family members, and family office professionals so they too can be good stewards of wealth. I'm DJ Van Kuren, and this is Family Office Real Estate Insights from the Family Office Real Estate Institute. We're here at the Jaboy Conference in Salt Lake City, or outside in Deer Valley, actually, and just had a chance to listen to you go over and your whole story, which is quite amazing. And for what you're doing in relation to the communities that you're actually developing. Let's talk about that a little bit, right? So when did you start actually implementing, and let's back up for a second and talk about how it came about, and then also what were your first steps after you left the NFL?
Got it. Okay. So in college, one of my degrees is in business. And they taught us to identify a point of pain and to solve it with a product, a good, or a service. So going through college, I had actually done that. I identified points of pain, and I was constructing business plans to solve those points of pain. And then I graduated from college and went on to play in the NFL, and I did the same thing through my professional career. Turns out some of the things that some of the points of pain were things like disparities with executive roles held in business in the Fortune 500 companies, or food deserts, or lack of housing, or this gap in technical skills that our country is about to really get hit with. How can we really bridge those gaps, if you will, but not really just put a Band-Aid on it, but really stitch it up from some of its root causes. A lot of which stemmed from infrastructure and lack of resources and opportunities for some of these marginalized communities, which led to dilapidated buildings, a lot of them, right? Schools, malls, warehouses, shopping centers, and a lot of developers don't touch them. Now, municipalities and land banks have them and are at a point now where they're offering them and selling them for up, as low as $1 sometimes.
That's because it has to have created a lot of opportunity for that because nobody's looking in those areas.
Exactly.
And that's really because of the look. I'm a developer. I'm looking to make money. So it's all about money. It's not as much about, hey, what can I really do for the community?
And what I want developers or CEOs, executive, matriarchs to understand is that it doesn't have to be an either or. It's really an and, right? Your ROI is return on investment as well as return on impact. The more impact you have, the more money you get. The more money you get, the more impact you can have.
So some of these properties that you've gone in, how many communities have you built so far? Or you're in the process?
In the process of Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, Bridgeport, Connecticut, Newark, New Jersey, Williamsport, Erie, and then one in Nigeria and Zambia as well. We're working out there.
Okay, so in the U.S., first off,
Northeast region. Yeah.
Okay, you have 6. Is that right? Okay, so how are you doing all these 6? Are these developers that's taking these buildings? I mean, how did you? It's only been a couple years now. It hasn't been that long. Mm-hmm. So how did you mobilize that type of growth?
Yeah, JV deals certainly. Right,
okay.
Joint ventures with other developers, co-development. They were actually developers who were already in the process of developing mixed-use developments themselves that reached out like, hey, look, we have a property. We're starting to develop it. We're getting blocked by the residents and city council. So like, hey, would you mind coming in with us
Yeah.
and kind of helping us, get through this process? And that's what we specialize in, is actually working with the community to build things that they want, not a developer that just comes in and drops something as if they're Jesus, right? But hey, look, let's work with you. Let's figure out what the biggest issues are here. What are the amenities that can strategically bridge the gaps, with the issues in your community? So all those things together, developers needing other developers, municipalities needing developers, my buddies as athletes looking to do more intentional things in their communities. It was a great intersection of, all right, let me bring all these different people together because they're looking to do the same thing and they just need a quarterback.
It seems really there's a lot of athletes that are really focusing on social impact. It just seems to be a constant flow. People either stop playing and then they start getting into it or whatnot. All right, so these developers that are coming in, it's obvious what you're going to do to the community. If you're going to do it right, you are going to make an impact. What type of returns are these developers? What are the targeted returns on these type projects?
In the early stages of our so those 6 projects, the way they were working it is the money actually, we could have a 20% IRR. But we're actually working it back so that we can reinvest that money back into the ground to build a new bridge. The reason for that being is, 1, the acquisition price that we're getting, and then 2, the amount of public funds that we get because of what we're doing, why we're doing it. Then the private investors that we get in, they automatically get a higher return on investment. So my initial investors, who are, 1, myself, my friends and family who happen to be athletes, right, they're the ones that I've allowed to get equity positions to this point.
Okay, so it's really, but if you have a developer that's doing one project, are you convincing them to roll that money over to the next?
Mm-hmm.
You are. And are they doing that same project, developing that next project as well?
Yeah.
So it sounds like they're looking at it from a long-term perspective in order to compound their money.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay, so you go into a building. Let's talk about what you put in place into these buildings, right? There's 5 different components of it.
That's
Is that right?
Yep.
Can you talk about that briefly for us?
Yeah. So the 5 branches of the bridge, or essentially the spaces that we create within these buildings, are spaces to work, eat, live, learn, and play.
Okay.
So work, that's really your hub for entrepreneurs to either start businesses or run businesses. So think certainly office spaces if needed, co-working, maker spaces, just kind of that center for entrepreneurs to create their businesses. So that's the work branch. Retail spaces as well.
Yeah.
Eat is restaurants, certainly, but also farming. So urban agriculture when the property is obviously in an urban area. And we do our agriculture by way of aeroponics and hydroponics.
Yeah, which is big.
Yep. So ag tech is actually one of the biggest disruptive forces that the bridge has. Growing food without soil, solar panels, water collection, geothermal energy. We have a bio-waste food digester that allows us to bring in fresh food waste, anaerobic vermicomposting. We break it down, capture the nutrients, capture the energy, heat the greenhouses up year-round. So the point of pain, if you will, again, each of these branches were different businesses that I had developed. This one was actually to localize grocery stores. Right, because it's not just an issue to not have a grocery store in a community, but even when you do, where's the produce from that grocery store coming from?
Yeah.
Right, so places like Pennsylvania or Denver, where it's cold for a nice chunk of the year, you're losing 30% of its nutritional value before you're within just 3 days of it being picked. 30% is lost in 3 days of being picked. So if we can grow food more locally, we take care of food localization, but also when we talk about food security with what's going on in the Ukraine, right? As Americans, we need to focus on food security, food localization, and urban agriculture in a fully controlled environment is certainly the way to do that.
Right.
So,
but who are the people that are getting? Because these are in areas which are. What's the income levels in these areas where you're building these? Are there certain demographics?
Well, we don't look for income to that's not one of the determining factors.
Okay, so what's one of the determining factors?
Homeowner occupied rates
Okay.
are below 45%.
Okay.
The overweight obesity level is above 15%.
Ooh, okay.
It's a food desert or within 5 miles of a food desert.
Okay.
And the local school district is ranked in the bottom half of the state.
Okay.
Which all those things normally lead to low income areas. Yes.
Yeah, right. So then is it helping create jobs too that are working out of these areas?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So one of the things when we started going through the OZ, I was actually one of the things that I said continually, and I was very vocal about this, is I don't think it's going to have the impact that people actually think is going to happen, because developers are going to go in there, they're going to build these Class A buildings, really nice areas, and then because of that, there's going to be, some great retail that comes in. Ultimately, you're going to displace people that it was meant to help, right? And so so the first question I'm sure you get all the time is like, well, this should be perfect in an OZ zone, right? Which it probably is. It could be very beneficial, but you'd actually be
using it for what it's supposed to be.
For what it's supposed to be worked for. That's exactly it. So how many of these locations are actually in an OZ area? Do you have any OZs yet?
No.
And that's just because it hasn't.
It shows you the inefficiency of the zoning of an OZ.
Well.
Because what I just listed off,
yeah,
those key impact measures that allows us to identify our properties should be right in line with what.
It should totally be in line. It should totally be in line.
No, there's whatever room where it happened, they decided where those lines were, and they were, I think, strategically done and not necessarily intentionally done for the production of that local, municipality.
That's pretty amazing. So what are the tax benefits? So what are you tapping into from the government to build these?
Grants, certainly.
Okay.
Tax credits.
What kind of tax credits?
The low-income housing tax credits, veteran housing tax credits, senior housing tax credits. We got, depending on which municipality you're in, what state, like in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, we got a neighborhood partnership program tax credit, which allows a corporation to invest a minimum of $50,000 or donate a minimum of $50,000 and upwards of $5 million and get a 75% tax credit on that.
Okay.
So like just being, I call it creative financing or capital stack lasagna. Right? So on the public side, like I said, the tax credits, grants, subsidies, like vouchers from the local housing authority.
Yes.
So as a developer putting together your pro forma, look, I need to have at least $1,000 a month coming from each of these rentals. But I also realized I need to have people that live here that need to live here. So you work with the local housing authority to create a subsidy. All right, look, we'll cover 75% of that.
Like Section 8.
Exactly, right? But don't just build homes, right? Because we have projects.
It's the live, work, play.
Exactly.
Exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. Are you taking any, it's an amazing story with what happened with you going to school in Hershey and what they provided and the opportunity it gave you, and I'm sure many, many others. I have to ask, what was the trade that you learned?
I did two. Okay. I did graphic design and video production.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Because you automatically think when you're learning a trade that you're going to be a plumber or you're going to be, doing, some type of automotive. That is so
I'll tell you
awesome.
what, I'm happy I did those two.
Yeah.
With where we've moved now.
I was just going to say, it's
building
all
websites, logos, pitch decks, whatever the case is. Like I have the skills to do that.
So in relation to that, for kids and stuff is there a component that is utilizing any of that to help with families that really don't have the money toward college or anything that from Hershey? Have you started implementing that yet, or is that in the plans in the future?
Yeah, so we've got the Evolved Youth Trades Academy, which is a pre-apprenticeship program for kids 12 to 18 to learn trades like plumbing, electric, carpentry. I added in graphic design for them. I was actually just their professor this summer.
Oh, good for you.
Again, just to try and really find the intersection of people's talents, their hobbies, and their interests.
Yeah.
How can we monetize that and contribute that back to your community?
So are you... what was I going to say? Have you finished any of these yet, or are they all in construction?
In construction.
They're in construction. When do you plan on? And you're probably doing it in phases.
That's
I would
right.
imagine.
Yep.
What's the first phase that you go into?
You'll see a bridge. Normally, yes. To stabilize the property with housing is certainly the most advantageous thing to do. But with our project in Harrisburg, we actually secured a $4 million grant from the state to do our phase one, which is a conversion of our gym into a community center, essentially. right? So that's actually phase one of our building, which allows us to then stabilize the HVAC, the plumbing, the rest of the utilities across the building with the funding we got from that. And then phase two will be the building of the housing towers and working our way south. So normally, in most cases, to our other bridge projects like Bridgeport, Pittsburgh, housing is the first thing to help stabilize that property.
Got it. So when do you plan on having the first one finished, did you say?
Phase one will be done at end of next year.
Okay.
So that conversion of the gym, and then the entire eco village itself, which is not just a conversion of the building, but also some multi-family units being built in the back. Bringing the whole total, I think that property is going to have 220 units, and that'll be complete in 2026.
Who's running the various components of the operational aspect? Not the building itself, but the operations.
Yep. So work is actually co-working at the bridge is a separate entity.
Okay.
As well as partnerships with Vector 90.
Okay.
E is vertical.
What's Vector 90?
Vector 90 was a co-working space founded by Nipsey Hussle in California.
Okay.
His partner David Gross.
Okay.
E branch is Vertical Harvest. They're actually out of Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Okay.
They do vertical indoor agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
The live space itself, the co-living aspect of what we're doing, right, which is not the majority of our housing, but this specific portion of it, it's kind of how to explain co-living. If say there's the 6 bridges are built and you want to live in one for a few months, you've got the flexibility to go live at another one too, right? And it's furnished, it's got the same brand, the same feel, right? But maybe you're nomadic, you work from home, you want to go experience Denver for a bit, you want to go experience Seattle for a bit, right? That's what co-living is. So that's Live, LIIV, that's the company that manages the living property management, if you will. Learn is actually a nonprofit. That's called Empower at the Bridge Foundation.
Okay.
And I'm the chairman of that foundation. And that works on, again, all the self-sufficiency educational programming that we promote.
Okay.
So how to start businesses, how to farm, how to invest in real estate, those things. And then the play aspect is run by Bridge Entertainment. And we're looking to actually get in urban air.
Urban air.
To run the trampolines, batting cages, the entertainment aspects that the bridge brings.
That's awesome. So how can real estate people, developers get involved? I mean, what is it that you need or that you could use to help continue this on?
Well, investors certainly are important to continue to build the bridges that need to be built. I'm always looking to learn, in all honesty. So anybody who wants to reach out, or if they're in this realm, like, take me under your arm. Like, I'm a sponge. I want to learn. I want to come check out maybe a site that you're developing, come see how that's going. I want to build a network of developers and learn from those who have been doing it and continue to work together to better the process. The overall work, eat, live, learn, play, right? But the specific amenities are actually determined by our nonprofits' work in doing a disparity study and forming a local coalition with those community organizations. And we identify first, obviously, a property, and then also what programs are needed expeditiously.
Okay, but are there other other than figuring out those programs, because that's one of the 5, can't you replicate the play part?
Yeah.
Okay, can't you replicate the food part?
Oh, yeah.
And are you a nonprofit or no?
We have a nonprofit.
You have a nonprofit, okay. So, I'll tell you, one of the things that I want to commend you on, there's a lot of this social impact. There's a lot of this, and it's the younger generation that's really moving, that's wanting to do that. What I always say is, you go to a patriarch and you say you can make a 16% return and save the world, or you can make a 16% and not save the world, or you can make 13% and save the world. They're going to go 99% of the time with that 16. You go with that younger gen, they're going to say 13's fine because I want to help save the world, right? So that's the future generation on that component. And a lot of these, just like we were saying, a lot of these OZs, they're not, it's doing opposite of what it should be doing. And so I think that's fantastic with what you've been putting together. And I encourage anybody, and we're doing this at the Jaboy Conference in Deer Valley, but it's for the Family Office Real Estate Institute. And, the whole institute came about out of, I don't know if I've ever told you the story, but it came by mistake. It's basically what happened. But the impact that it can have for not only, initially it's all for generations, because families have a huge problem where 70% is lost by the second gen, 90% is lost by the third gen. And real estate, I believe that is the solution to maintain that long term. And you hear a lot about this. It's been hard in real estate to really quantify making an impact. It just seems like everything that we're talking about and what you're doing, I mean, it really, truly, and to me, it sort of flabbergasts me in many regards, because you get a lot of people talking about social impact. These OZs, like I was saying, that really aren't going to work the way that they thought it was going to work. But this is truly, I mean, what you're creating is making a difference and making money. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we talked about off camera is that the way that you've put this together truly can be, I use the word loosely, franchised, in the sense where you can keep making the burgers over and over and over again, where it's no different than going to a Marriott. We're at a St. Regis. Well, pretty much what you're going to get. There's going to be some differences, mm-hmm. but you still know what you're walking into. Yep. And there's already, the brand. That's why brands are so powerful. So I got to tell you, I just. One, your story is tremendous, and one of the things I've mentioned to you that we are looking to have our first family office real estate conference at Harvard in the spring. We're still in the process of setting that up, and definitely want you to tell your story. It's truly, I don't know, it's truly awesome, and what you're building. I mean, you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
Really, I mean, I don't know how often you hear that, but you really, really are. And, that's where, when you have a win-win-win where everybody benefits, people locally making an impact, making a difference, making money, being rewarded in multiple ways, not just financially, that's sort of the afterthought, right? But it's really what you're going to be seeing happening in these areas.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So, Garry, thanks so much for taking the time here at the Jaboy conference, and and being on the board. I mean, I hope we're able to start helping to give back to you, like you're giving back, being on the board. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about this earlier too. Maybe there's some way that we can help from the Institute to provide some education.
Yeah.
Because we've got some amazing people that could do that, and even come up with maybe a program of sorts that we could do virtually or on location, where they earn a little certificate or something like that. Right?
I love that idea.
That could be super cool. So, I'm DJ Van Kuren, Garry Gilliam with The Bridge. And thanks for listening, and look for the next set of people that we talk to about what's going on here at the conference.
Let's build.
All right, man.